Supernatural Season 15, Episode 3, The Rupture. So this was a heck of an episode. I wanted to start off with kind of where I left off in my last review, because I mentioned having watched like 3 episodes in a row, and that was also like all last week. Some stuff kind of blended together, so I didn't want to talk too much about Chuck. But Chuck, seeing Amara in episode 2, I thought was a good scene. And I wanted to save that just in case, because there's a couple of things that tied in. Specifically, of course, and unfortunately, Rowena's death. And the reason I feel that specifically ties into Chuck is because it goes into the whole prophecy stuff that they've had kind of in the last couple of seasons. And it's like, okay, they were always talking about, it's like, all right, this is exactly how Rowena's supposed to die. Like, even when she found out, they were specifically like, yep, Sam's going to do it. And it was like, okay, we'll see what happens. We'll see if, if prophecy means anything. It's supernatural. Nothing that's set in stone ever means anything for these characters. And so it was kind of a big deal. It's like, all right, how does this work? What will happen? What won't happen? The last season was legitimately like, hey, if you, as a character in Dean, don't kill yourself and cast yourself off to the bottom of the ocean, this is exactly what will happen. And things don't always play out that way. So it's interesting to see, like, sometimes you can change it, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can kind of alter the path. Sometimes it just is what it is. And I thought that was interesting watching it, because I was like, all right, if they change things here, it's kind of just like up in the air. Like, literally anything can happen. And I guess technically that's still the case, because, the whole point of the last season was like, if you don't do this, then for sure the whole world is destroyed, because that's supernatural. And of course, that doesn't necessarily happen. And things get crazy, and of course they switch it up, and as Sam and Dean always do, and now including Cass and Jack sometimes, I guess, they come out on top. Everything's cool. Everything's just like smooth sailing. So in this episode, when they go through the motions, it's like, all right, we have this happening, we have that happening. The end of the episode comes along. We have Rowena, unfortunately, having to sacrifice herself. And it's just like, all right, what does this mean for our characters? What does it mean that Chuck is able to do something, or that he may or may not be able to do something? Because he's weakened, but he's officially weakened. Like, even Amara says, like, oh, you're not at top strength. You can do like some parlor tricks and stuff like that. So if they're suffering through whatever destiny may or may not be, is there anything that Chuck could possibly do to kind of move that along? Does he really create destiny? Does he not create destiny? Did he formerly have that power but no longer does because he made the bullet, which surprisingly he legitimately made a gun that actually would hurt him? I guess he wasn't thinking like, oh, they'll use it on me. I guess that kind of caught him off guard. It was like, crap, I probably should have put in a loophole for myself. And clearly he didn't, because he's actually weakened. So it just brought up a lot of questions, and I was like, all right, well, unfortunately, Rowena dies in this episode. A hero's death. I thought it was cool. What does that mean for the characters and kind of what they're about to come up against? So that was very interesting. I thought it had to go in, with some of the weird stuff that's happening with Chuck being literally God. What does that mean? What does prophecy even mean for characters when sometimes they can change it and then sometimes they can't? So I was really curious about that one, but loved the episode or hated it. It's hard to, it's up in the air. I knew a character died in this episode before the episode came out. I didn't know who, because of course the title's always like, blank, it just says spoiler, and it's like, this happened, and they served this death. And I was like, okay, someone's gonna die. Honestly, I didn't know Ketch showed up until, I saw episode 2, because this is before, I'd only seen the premiere. I didn't even see episode 2 yet. And so I was like, oh man, I know Rowena's gonna show up, it's gonna be Rowena. And then Ketch showed up, and I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be Ketch. The episode legitimately starts. Our dad comes in, and was like, hey, I sent you into town. You were supposed to kill him. What happened? And I was like, well, you gave me some wrong info. He didn't do it. She killed him. Makes our dad seem like a real villain. Kills Ketch off. And I was like, well, that was effed up. Especially because it was just the beginning of the episode, and he was just gone. And I was like, that sucks. He's had his redemption. Had a really weird storyline. He died. Then he had a twin brother and some stuff. It's a weird story. But I was like, all right. At this point, he wasn't just a complete a-hole like he was originally. He got his redemption. Everything was fine. And then he dies. And I was like, that sucks. That really does suck. That blows. So I was like, all right, he's the character that died. And so they're going through, and it's like, all right, we have the demons. They're kind of trapped. And this is something that I thought was very interesting. This would kind of bother me. There were a couple of things that bothered me. I think it was in episode 2 and this one. With the whole barrier stuff. There's a few things that they did where I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Ketch being possessed in the last episode didn't make any sense to me, because I was like, how is it that someone could be possessed and then they leave the barrier? That didn't make any sense because the whole point of the barrier is that the demons are trapped within it. So if they could always possess someone and leave, why wouldn't they do that to begin with and just possess someone, leave the barrier, and then it's just like, boom, I'll kill this person off and then I'll just teleport somewhere else, or I'll just take this body and leave. So that didn't make any sense. And then in this specific episode, I can't remember what the exact thing was, but it was kind of the same deal where I was like, it doesn't make sense that certain things are like passing through this barrier when, clearly like specific demons are meant to be sealed. Like obviously Balfagor, he's able to go back and forth because that's kind of the whole thing. But for other demons, it was like, all right, well, if they can all pass the barrier, why wasn't that the plan to begin with? Because they possess bodies. You can just possess bodies, knock some people out in the middle of the night, drag the bodies back into the barrier, and just possess more and more people, and then just leave. So it was like, it was weird. So some weird stuff they did with the barrier that just didn't make a lot of sense. But going through the episode, Ketch dies. They have their plan. Of course, the whole thing with Rowena where it's like, I make this crystal to kind of absorb the souls. They were already kind of showing like, oh man, it takes a lot out of me to do that sort of thing. And I was like, okay. I don't know. I was kind of going back and forth because I think they referenced that in episode 2. And then, of course, this episode starts and Ketch dies. And I was like, okay. So it's got to be Ketch then. And then they, start to go through with the plan. It's like, all right, this is what we have to do. This is how we do it. And then, Balfagor is like, hey, technically this wasn't like a gate opening up. It's just kind of a tear. So all we have to do is kind of just suck the souls back in, seal up the hole, just stick a Band-Aid on it. Everything's good to go. They can't blast through the barrier, and bombard and stuff like that. I just remember what the other thing was. It was Dean shooting all the demons through the barrier. That's what it was. And he would shoot, and it would like only one would hit. And I was like, he's shooting rock salt. It should be like smoke all over the place, but it would be like he hit one demon at a time. I'm like, if there's like hundreds of them piling up against this barrier, there should be way more smoke. Weird stuff was that. It was a weird time when I was watching. I was just some weird stuff was happening. Anyway, actual episode. They're going through. They have the plan. Balfagor mentions Lilith had a cane. Thought that was a cool callback. And it was like, yeah, she never really used it or anything because just knowing that she had it was kind of enough to kind of keep us in line. So it's like, all right, Rowena, you're going to do that. Sam just, was kind of chosen by Rowena, which I think was solely based on the whole prophecy thing. She just instantly was like, all right, if this doesn't work, this is definitely it. So it's got to be Sam because it's prophecy. So I feel like she chose him automatically, like just in case the backup plan is death. He has to be the one to do it, and that's just how it goes. So they were already chosen. Dean was the one who was like, all right, well, I guess I'll go out and just be the one who's, defenseless and wait to toss the grenade in, pretty much. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to hell by myself. And so, of course, Balfagor decides he's going to take Cass, which makes me wonder if he did know that, because he was like, oh, lucky me, when they get to the actual crook. And it's like, oh, look, there's a Nokia. So I'm like, maybe he knew that officially? And this is where things get real crazy for me, because this is not how I thought the season was going to go. I thought we were going to have the big reveal, which we kind of did. I was like, okay, we have the character that, of course, is always going to be evil. They're possessing someone else. Regardless of this reasoning, they always come out evil. In some way, shape, or form, they're bad. So our dad comes in as they're, they get the crook and everything, and it's like, hey, I got to kill this dude. He wants to rule hell. And so Cass is stuck down there, and it's like, interesting. I didn't really trust the guy to begin with. Is that true? Ardak gets killed off super quick. I was like, I didn't see that one coming. And so then Cass, of course, is like, how's this about to play out? Like, is this true? Like, what's happening? So then we find out that the crook doesn't just suck the souls into hell. Technically, it doesn't suck the souls into hell at all. It just brings them to the owner of the horn, which just so happens to be Balfagor. I was like, all right, well, what's actually going to happen is they're going to come down to hell and then get sucked right into me, and I'm going to have like a gajillion souls, and everything's going to be pretty sweet for me. So before that can actually happen, he gets a couple, and then Kaz kind of hits him, and he kills him. And I was like, holy crap, didn't see that coming, because I of course thought that was going to work, and we'd get a few more episodes. With it being the final season, I didn't think it was everything was going to happen. But I was like, okay, he's going to succeed. We'll get a few episodes. He'll be kind of like our couple episodes. He'll have a decent arc. I don't know how many episodes are in the season, but I was like, I can see them doing that. They pull, they got a decent arc. Chuck does his thing off on the side. They deal with the villain in between. And then you have, they defeat him. Then Chuck comes back in as the main villain for however many episodes to end out the series. And so that's how I thought things were going to play out. And then it was like, nope. They had the revelation. Ketch is killed by Ardad. Ardad is killed by Balfagor, and then Balfagor is killed by Cass. So they were wiping people out left and right in this whole episode. It was like epic villain reveal. I was like, of course he's the bad guy. Let's see what happens. Oh, he's dead. Didn't see that coming. I thought maybe there was some other way he could have survived because he sucked in quite a few souls. So I was like, maybe it looks like he burned through them, but there's a lot, it's more than one soul. And I was like, it's not like Cass is at top strength. Like, they kind of reference that a bit. So I was like, maybe he could still technically survive because he absorbed like a bunch of souls. Maybe he could make that illusion where it looks this specific way. And if they do it that way, that'll be very interesting because we didn't see any hint of smoke, anything. But we saw that charred body and it was burnt. He like destroyed Jack's body. Like, it was burnt to a crisp. And the horn's just laying there. It's all bones. Because, they do it and he kills them. And then I think when they come back from commercial, like, the whole body is completely toast. There's no clothes. It's bones and ash. And I was like, oh, he's gone. There is no, maybe he snuck out here. Or, he used the power of however many souls he already had and just was like, I'm going to jump ship. That body was completely wiped out and gone. And like I said, we didn't see a single hint of smoke, but it's TV. They could do it if they want to, but I kind of hope they don't. I hope that was just the ending, and it seemed like it was going to lead to kind of what it's led to before. Whenever someone's possessed, like I said, that's always the big thing. Eventually it comes out. In this case, it was kind of in the forefront because the characters knew from the beginning compared to it being a secret. And it was just like, okay, boom. And then he becomes a villain. But he didn't even get the chance. Just gone. So that I thought was very entertaining and definitely surprising. And it's like, all right, well, that just happened. That was crazy and unexpected and very cool. And then that, of course, leads to, well, what do we do? Because the plan totally failed. And naturally, that leads to Rowena saying, well, here's the backup plan. I have to die. So, excuse me. Crazy moment. I didn't cry when I watched it, but I was definitely just like, this sucks. Like, they'd already killed Ketch, so I was kind of like really thrown off because I was like, oh, okay, Ketch is gone, so that's totally the death. Especially having known that there was a death, I was like, oh, that was the one. Because I think the article was specifically like, this person deserved a better death. It could have been about Ketch, actually, because I was kind of like, dang, that was so messed up, even for a character that I wasn't like the most, into. It was just like, man, that's just a dark, brutal death. Like, it was a legit brutal death. It's like, that's what they tend to do for like side characters. And it was like, he wouldn't give him up and she just ripped his heart out. Like, he saw his heart beating and then she like basically was like, I'm just gonna pull this last little cord and he died. And I was like, that was visceral and really effed up. So I thought, they threw me off the scent because I was like, okay, that sucks. They're gonna go through the episode. And they do. And then it's like, okay, demon dies. Well, all right. Other demon dies. Okay. Surprising still, because of course, the Jack body thing. I was like, okay, not how I thought the story was going to go, but that's really cool. We got like 3 surprising deaths. And then Rowena still dies at the end. They killed off 4 freaking characters that were, Ardad was like super low on that list of characters, but still, they killed off 4 characters and it was just like, wow, that was nuts. And I just couldn't believe they did it. And then of course, they're back home in the bunker, which I thought was great. And they have an amazingly messed up ending. Like, I love the ending, but the ending itself was also super sad. And it was just like, wow, Dean, like, hates Cass. And it was like, I don't know, I was so torn because I was like, you kind of can't blame Cass for everything that happened. As far as, the backup plan and stuff and how that had to go down. Because it's like, of course, if Dean was the one down there, if Sam was the one down there, it would be like, all right, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out after we do this because this is happening in front of us. And, Dean kind of takes the other path where it's like, well, you let him do it and then we figure it out after. We always do. But it's like in that moment, basically godlike characters coming into play. You have to do something to take him down because you don't know what's going to happen next. Obviously, he can already leave the barrier. And even if he couldn't beforehand, he was going to be more than strong enough to do it afterwards. So it was just like, man, you can't really blame Cass for having done it and kind of, messed up the plan. But of course, Dean, and Cass even says, it's like, you're still mad that I didn't tell you about Jack. And of course, that led to your mom dying. And it's like, you can't blame Dean for still being mad about that, especially because it's Dean. It's like, if anyone's going to hold a grudge, it's going to be Dean, especially about his mom. And it's like, you could have stopped my mom's death if you just told us about Jack. And it was just like, man, someone who, he was the 3rd Winchester. He came along, he was the 3rd one, and Jack was like the 4th Winchester. And, they lost Jack, and then Cass is just like, Rowena's gone, Jack's gone, the town's safe now. You and Sam have each other. I'm just out. I guess I'll just go on my own. And he just leaves. And I was like, this is depressing. It was like the most depressing episode ever. It's just like death here, main death there. And then, of course Cass isn't gone forever, but Cass just leaves. And it's just like, this is sad to me. Like, all of this is just like, what the F? Like, this is depressing. And it just ends. And it's just like, wow. It just makes you take a look at like everything they've gone through, and it's just like, this blows. People are just dying, and then Cash just leaves. They don't have any hope. We still don't know what's going on with Jack. Every freaking episode I'm like, I just want to see what's going on. What is happening with the darkness? What did Billy say to him? Is Lucifer coming back? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. There's like a million questions with that, and I don't know, maybe in the newest episode it's in there. I doubt it, because every episode I'm like, this would be the perfect time for them to show Jack, and then they don't. But they did kill off Balthazar, and I mentioned that, and I'm mentioned this before, but I'm still doing my live reactions. Those probably won't be out till like next year, honestly, or until I get my computer. But when I was watching, I was like, all right, they killed Balthazar, which means they, instead of having one actor play two characters at the same time, I was like, all right, we're done with this character. He's dead, totally just roasted. He might show up in a different body, but he won't be in that one. So that means at this point we have a specific actor who is totally missing from the show now. He's going to come back sooner rather than later. So that should mean, now that we've gotten him killed off as one character, he should be back as Jack. Like I said, sooner rather than later. I would assume, my guess at least, would be within 3 episodes, he's going to be back as Jack, and we're going to finally get at least a hint of whatever's going on with the darkness. So I'm excited for that, because I'm like, that was the one silver lining. I was like, okay, not that character anymore. And of course, he's a regular in the series, so I'm like, all right, maybe that means Jack will be coming back soon, which I would assume means we're going to get to see Billy as well. So that'll be cool. We'll just have to wait and see. But definitely a crazy episode. Bunch of loss, bunch of sadness. Just like depressing. Cool. That's super fun. Final season of depression. And then we'll see what happens when we get to the end of the season. Who the F knows. But good episode. Just sad. But definitely a good one. I really enjoyed it. Super happy they finished the town thing, and I said that from the very beginning. I was like, all right, this needs to be 3 episodes max, and they need to get the F out of this town and start moving on with the story, which they do. Sadly, it was just like an epic ending to the whole city where they were killing off characters left and right. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. And then they have Cass leave at the end. But good episode for sure. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it, and of course, thanks for watching.